program and that we'd like to do this next week. So here we are today. Ready?
Whenever we picture our mom, Alice, she would be wearing an apron.
Our mom, and I'm sure many of yours, loved and wore aprons for their practicality.
We've gone through many old potato chip cans, my mom used for storage, and boxes of vintage materials and fabric scraps. Mom saved a piece from every item she ever sewed.
This is a quilt for my granddaughter's new bedroom that I'm still in the process of making, but when my daughter brought her daughter up to the house to pick fabrics for the quilt, she specifically asked about one particular fabric that she knew that my mother had made me a smock out for school, for paint class and all. And so she had asked if any possibility there might be some pieces of that around so that I wouldn't have to cut up my smock to do it. So Norma said, are you kidding? Of course there's something around somewhere. And sure enough, there was some, and I do have, there are 3 or 4 at least, probably half a dozen strips of that, along with this one, that we all 4 of us had dresses out of.
And that's the same material when my first project for sewing in 4-H was a drawstring bag. And so I made a drawstring bag out of that very same fabric.
I'm still huge.
Not lately.
Yeah, I think one of these, Ethel, is from your wedding.
Oh yes, that one there.
So she had lots of scraps. Our mom had a mantra. You never know when you might need it. So it was hard for her to throw anything out, and I think we followed in her footsteps.
She even saved old worn aprons for patterns for making new aprons.
One of the greatest treasures that we found in the attic was an old black 3-ring binder containing a lot of patterns for making vintage aprons, and we put some of those patterns on display on the table. And this is what I found. This is what I found. She had this, it was just full of vintage aprons. Oh, look at that.
She had clippings for patterns for vintage aprons from old magazines and patterns she'd sent away for in the 1940s and 50s, and some of those are on display as well.
Folded carefully in the bottom of a pile of fabric scraps, we often find another apron.
Discovering another apron, sometimes covered with tea or butter fat stains, as this one is, from Mom's days of making her own butter on the farm. It always gave us great joy. Slipping on one of Mom's old aprons is like getting a hug from her. Welcome, and thank you for coming once again to the luncheon and presentation about the history of aprons. My name is Norma Salway.
My name is Dottie Adams.
And I'm Ethel Turner, and yes, we are sisters. We are 3 or 4 daughters of Alice Kimball, a longtime resident of Albany, and the creator of many of the aprons on display today.
The idea behind this project was to highlight an area of local history while at the same time providing a different form of fundraising.
We appreciate the efforts of those who wore a special apron to share today.
Now we'd like all to stand who wore or brought an apron. Later in the presentation, you'll have an opportunity to share a story about your apron.
Let's see that.
Look towards the
camera,
You brought mine,
Yay, this is an apron is just a loincloth with ruffles. We'd like to begin by sharing a little bit of the history of aprons, followed by some quotes and poems from some little books. And this little book is called Apronisms, Pocket Wisdom for Every Day by Ellen Ann Geisel.
Then we'd like all who wish to stand and share his or her apron.
The English word apron came from naperon, the old French word for napkin or small tablecloth. In one of my findings, an author claimed that the earliest apron was actually a fig leaf. The first aprons were for men, not women. Blacksmiths, cobblers, farriers, metal forgers, cloth makers, jewelers, gardeners, carvers, furniture makers, all usually wore an apron either made of leather, duck cloth, or canvas. Barbers, stonemasons, and the Masonic Society all wore aprons. Shakespeare even wrote about aprons worn by men in Julius Caesar, Act 1, Scene 1. I had it.
Oh, you know what? I have your script. That wasn't in the script.
Okay. From Julius Caesar, Act 1, Scene 1. Murallus says, "Where is thy leather apron and thy rule? What dost thou with thy best apparel on?" Oh, yes, okay. In the 16th and 17th century, colors denoted the trade of the wearer. Butchers and porters wore green, English barbers wore a checked pattern, and masons white.
Anglican bishops and archdeacons also wore an item of clerical clothing called an apron that is now obsolete. With the popularity of aprons in the 17th century, romantic notions began to arise, such as, if the apron the lady is wearing becomes untied and drops off, it means her beau is thinking of her.
Men's early aprons were commonly made from animal hides or woven grasses.
The apron became part of a uniform dress code for knights and made of a heavy metal weave material or mail, a woven metal made of small chain links interwoven together and fastened around the waist.
Men of the upper classes of the Roman Empire wore long tunics over a linen shirt with hose and cloaks. Working men wore a short wool coat, spelled C-O-T-T-E, or tunic, with a belt. Later, aprons were tied at the waist.
Pioneer women wore aprons for the right reasons, to protect their clothes from getting dirty from all the household chores performed each day. These early aprons were long, and pinafores were pinned to clothing. It's an apron here that has to be pinned.
So this one right here is hanging right over there. Yeah, this one.
apron was used to carry vegetables from the garden, eggs from the hen house, kindling from the wood piles, and as a tool to lift pots and pans. Women officially wearing aprons came about at the turn of the century in Victorian England, but they were delicately embroidered and stitched. But usually the apron was given to the maids to wear, since they were the ones actually doing the work.
Ben Franklin, a printer among his many talents, formed the Leather Apron Society, the Leather Apron Club, because most of his fellow members wore leather aprons. They met to discuss ways to help the community.
Soon, the practical full or bib-style apron for women was challenged by the introduction of the half apron. It was considered more stylish and more cutesy for a hostess, but it really didn't protect the upper half from grease or food stains. So you can see some of the progression of the aprons, but these were the ones that were worn when you're going to do some heavy cooking or making butter. These are the bib style, and then you can see the cutesy ones.
Aprons in rural areas of the United States were usually made from whatever materials were on hand, even feed bags and flour sacks. In the 1940s saw gingham and cheery cotton aprons, even aprons made from handkerchiefs.
Right, that's right here.
During the 1950s, it was apron heaven. Even creative women or men wanted to sew the most beautiful aprons. Harriet of Ozzie and Harriet wore an apron. Blondie of the comic strips wore one. My mother, grandmother, and I'm sure yours sewed up a storm. I know of a man who, as a young boy, wanted to make something for his mom for Mother's Day. So with the help of an older cousin, he learned how to sew and made his mother an apron.
Now, the apron has gone through some rough times, beginning with the feminist movement, when the social climate changed dramatically and women went to work outside the home. Wearing an apron was either in or out. For many years, aprons lost their popularity.
Our dad, Ralph Kimball, who had a sawmill business, wore this apron for protection. It's quite heavy and thick. He was working in the sawmill in the planer shop. And another leather apron over on the end of the stage belongs to my uncle, Herb Stone, from South Paris.
But now, aprons have made a comeback. From the barbecue rib apron to the vintage aprons, which are all quite popular right now. People collect old aprons and use them for curtains and in other areas of home decorating. Like comfort food, aprons are comfort clothes.
We'd like to share with you a poem about aprons, appropriately titled Grandma's Apron, followed by 3 short readings from a little book called Apronisms. Grandma's apron. When I used to visit Grandma, I was very much impressed by her all-purpose apron and the power it possessed. For Grandma, it was every day to choose one when she dressed. The strings were tied and freshly washed, and maybe even pressed.
The simple apron that it was, you would never think about the things she used it for that made it look worn out. She used it for a basket when she gathered up the eggs, and flapped it as a weapon when hens pecked at her feet and legs.
She used it to carry kindling when she stoked the kitchen fire and to hold a load of laundry or to wipe the clothesline wire. She used it for a hot pad to remove a steaming pan, and when her brow was heated, she used it as a fan.
It dried our childish tears when we'd scrape a knee and cry, and made a hiding place when little ones were shy. Farm produce took in season in the summer, spring, and fall, found its way into the kitchen from Grandma's carry-all.
When Grandma went to heaven, God said she now could rest. I'm sure the apron she chose that day was her very Sunday best.
See, we still fight. We never fight.
You can never have too many aprons or too many memories. At a gas station in rural Georgia, the proprietor directed me round back for the ladies' facility. I feared a compromise to my plumbing standards, but the space was pristinely tiled and clean with a waft of pine salt in the air. Best of all, there were items to purchase displayed lovingly on the shelves along the wall. Colored glasses, porcelain figures, and a stack of neatly folded aprons with price tags dangling from bitty safety pins. Eureka! I commemorated my discovery of the bathroomless shopping by purchasing the entire cache of aprons.
This is a size large.
Now, would you like to?
And I'm Bonnie, and this apron, I found it amongst my mother's possessions after she passed away. And I believe it was from my grandmother. It's muslin and embroidered and quite simple. It has a little pocket. So it's adorable. It's not really worn, it's been packed away. And also I have another apron that, similar to Jean's, only the red and white. Well, I don't know much about that, but this one, my grandmother on my father's side, very simple with a cross stitch, but it's old. It's one she made for me, and I've had it for ages. And use it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have an apron story. When I was in my 20s, and one of the first dates with my now husband, it was the first time I was going to meet my mother. My mother does dishes. She makes a mess. There's water everywhere. So she makes apron that she puts plastic on the inside. So he pulls up to the house, pick me up, and my mother comes running up to see what's going on, wearing the apron that was soaking wet, Dr. Scholl's, protective hose, and rubber gloves. And he married me anyhow.
Yes.
This isn't an apron story, but in one of the supplements to the Sun Journal, those Sunday and Thursday magazines, there was an article on an apron museum. I'm sure there's a www about it someplace.
Yes, it's right here. See, I don't throw anything away. Here it is, right here. It has the website in here. It's Mississippi Woman Treasures. Have a video tour of the Apron Museum at americanprofile.com/apron museum. So if anyone wants to copy that, it's right here. Along with, there are some real old patterns. There's a picture of our mom here wearing one of her aprons and holding a baby chicken and a parakeet. A parakeet that used to be very noisy. And destructive. Actually chewed a check once, because we used to let it out so it would fly around. Yes.
This apron is, I think, the ultimate in the cutesy.
Yes.
This was my neighbor, Edna Lord. When she gave it to me, I'd like to get exactly either 100 or 101. She will be 105 in August. And she gave me this. This is what she felt I should wear for like evening entertainment. Purple, because it is really magnificent.
Very
It is. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Cynthia Baker, and I know who Edna Ward is. I lived in Foster's Mills years and years ago. But this apron this apron was made in Hong Kong. My mother, we were stationed in Japan when I was a little girl, and my mother bought it there for her mother who had a farm in Louisiana. And that's why I have it, because it was never worn. But it's really cute. It's got little braided pigtails on it and, nice little applique, but it also is in the cutesy department.
I bought 3 aprons. My name's Emma and I live in Cascot. I'm a transplant, but I've lived here for many years. But I bought one of my British aprons that when my relatives come, they always bring something. And I like that one in particular. Thank you, Henry. It's not vintage by any means, but it does tell you about England during the Second World War. When I grew up in Luton, Bedfordshire, which is 30 miles north of London, and my mother queued up, just like all those ladies are queuing up, and I used to be waiting with her, she was holding my hand. So that's very much what it was like. And I did notice that it went past really fast, didn't it? But we just went past June the 6th, Well, June the 6th is a very significant date. That was the day that we won, 1944. So, 45, I guess. But anyway, that's one of my favourite ones. And then the other relative brought me one from England, and it's the actual poster from when they used to have posters in the town to tell you when the next boat was leaving to America. So that's kind of interesting. It tells you how much it is, how much it's going to cost, where it's leaving from, 1848, and it's going directly to Quebec. And it's got the price of the tickets and everything on there. So that's an interesting apron too. And I do wear an apron. I wore an apron last night. I still do. But I used to like the ones that had frills.
Yes.
And the evening one, well, that's absolutely fantastic.
The only man to wear an apron just escaped.
Don't you have a chef's apron, Peter?
No, I don't.
You don't? Well, I can make you one.
Can I just say something else? Several of the aprons over here on this rack, and no, I guess not. But several of those, and the one hanging outside with the cowboys on it, on the front, and so forth, were made by Otisfield Ladies Sewing Circle. So I suspect you find, if you go around the houses in Otisfield, you'll find lots and lots of aprons that were always on sale at the annual Ladies Sewing Circle sale. So that's where a lot of those came from.
Yes. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, and in the 7th grade, all 7th graders had to take, the boys had to take shop and the girls had to take sewing. So I made an apron, as all girls did, and it took an entire year. And it was like the sampler, every kind of stitch that one could learn to do was in this apron. And when it was finally finished, you also had to learn to embroider, so you put your name on it. And I have no idea where it went. I wish I had it now. It really was valuable. I used all those stitches I learned, and hemming and everything, all my life.
Well, thank you all for sharing.
I wanted to tell a little bit about a few of the aprons that are in the collection before we close. First of all, you might have noticed that this one right here, which is from the 40s, is a clothespin holder apron.
Where was that when I needed it?
This one, I know a lot of you noticed this one. My mother did not make this one.
No.
Dottie and I were getting ready. She was working on a yard sale, and we were going through some material. And I said, oh, this is beautiful material. And she said, well, that's not material, that's an apron. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's too cute. And it has Velcro here. So we don't even know where it came from. It was so different. She had the,
Our mother has a story.
I've made aprons for the over pants.
That's what I This one, actually, my grandmother made, my mother's mom, Anne McConaughey. She made it for me when my first child was born in 1964. And it's a baby bath apron. And it's wide enough, so when you take the baby out of the tub, you just wrap this around the baby. So this has a lot of sentimental meaning. There are a couple here. My mom loved making little people aprons. So this one she made for me and my daughter when my daughter was just tiny. I just wanted to share those, that little bit of history. Yeah.